Let's go. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. The goal is to have a bunch of questions for Solana Foundation, Solana Incubator. And so I have a few questions that I want to ask, but then we could maybe give the mic to the crowd and get their input. Do you guys want to maybe introduce yourself, what you're doing at Solana? And we start with that.
Hello. Hey everybody, my name is Noah. I work for the Solana Foundation. I work on dev tools and AI.
Hey everyone, I'm Emon and I'm actually at Solana Labs. I run the Solana Incubator program.
And Emon, do you want to start by telling us what's the Incubator program for people that are here?
Yeah, sure. So as many of you might be familiar, Solana Labs built the original validator client 5 or 6 years ago, built a lot of the original products and protocols of the Solana network. But as many amazing developers like yourselves came into the ecosystem, we didn't need to be in a position anymore of building all of the pieces firsthand. And so we asked ourselves, how could we scale the knowledge, the expertise we built up across the ecosystem with the goal of spearheading more blue chip companies on Solana? And the Solana Incubator program was one of the answers to that question, where we bring in 6 teams into our New York offices for a period of 3 months. And really build alongside them, grow with them to try to create the next, Jupiter or Phantom of the Solana network. So it's a really hands-on intensive program, and specifically kept at an extremely small size so we can work intimately with each of these teams. And we're lucky enough to have Crunch as one of the teams this cohort.
Yes. And it was amazing, guys. If you have a startup, and please apply, it's really, really cool. Question for you, Noah, so we see there is a will of you guys to try to help pushing blue chip companies, so selecting some companies, etc. On the AI side, Solana is already known for having some amazing Deepin projects, a lot of DeFi application. How do you see the agenda there? How do you see more AI application coming into Solana?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, there's a lot of Deepin AI projects building on Solana. The Solana Foundation is making some structural investments into engineering that goes into AI applications. One of the things we're working on is building out a lot of data sets, actually, called evaluation data sets for benchmarking AI agents to complete different tasks. One of the things that we see right now with AI agents, I don't know if you guys have used Grafane. Okay, one hand. All right, everyone else is asleep.
Don't be shy. There is 2.
Okay.
3. They're just shy.
If you use these things, they're still very nascent, right? And if you try to transfer over 100 SOL, the AI agent will be like, "Yo, that's a lot," and it'll refuse. If you try telling it, "Hey, launch a coin on Pump.fun," it might say, "Hey, I don't know if you know about the risks of launching, a meme coin," and it will give you a lecture. And so, structural investments like this to kind of show where the edge cases are to engineers, we think will save a lot of time and help make production applications on Solana more sturdy.
Nice. Which other industry you see Emon coming into on Solana now and being ready, or apart from Deepin, DeFi, AI?
Yeah, I think, and we've seen this in the incubator cohort as well, which is, I think, the original promise of crypto from the standpoint of global payments, removing the middlemen, and extrapolating that to the broader financial space as well, is one that we see a tremendous amount of sort of growth and demand in. DAS is happening this week, and we had an institutional summit here at this same stage. Yesterday morning, we had a big institutional dinner last night, and so we're seeing sort of the convergence of a few different things we had been waiting for. One is the regulatory side of things obviously looks a lot different this year now than it did last year. The institutions, I think, are finally here and are all really interested and are excited to sort of sink their teeth in. From a technological standpoint, there's a level of maturity now from a KYC perspective, protection of funds perspective. And so all of these things are kind of coming together at the right moment to really push the financial narrative, whether it's a financial narrative from the standpoint of real-world assets or a financial narrative from the standpoint of payments from here to Nigeria or whatever else. So really excited to see that coming to chain.
And how do you see the institution actually? What's the feedback from the institution when you have the first contacts? Okay, they come, then finally you are in touch with them, they talk with us, the project like the incubator, and etc. How is it going?
Yeah, I think the institutions are excited. I think it's funny, we talk about this broad term of institutions all the time, but at the end of the day, as you know, institutions are really made up of people, and you have to kind of win over the hearts and minds, and maybe someone comes in for the incubator, you chat with them, they get excited, they go back and they win over some other folks internally, and it really takes conversation by conversation, building the momentum and the narrative, and also making the case for why they should come to Solana. Just using real world assets as an example, I think institutions are seeing, hey, there is an opportunity to bring our assets on chain, but the flip side, that's the supply side, but is the demand going to be there for those assets? Are there going to be folks who are interested in buying a product from an Apollo or a JP Morgan? And I think folks like Ondo or Alpha Ledger and the incubator are both testing that hypothesis and in some ways already proving that hypothesis. And so the more that we see sort of the supply and the demand curve in a happy place where the needs of both groups are being met, I think the more it sort of activates other institutions down the road to come on chain, other Solana users to say, hey, I want to participate in those assets and find that happy medium.
Nice. And Noah, on the side of AI, how do you see this partnership evolving? Like, do you have some institutional AI companies? Like, you guys, we were at the AI summit in New York, right? And we had the booth in front of the AI conference, and the guy was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" So, I know you. What are you doing, actually? Any other initiative like that? It was a cool experience, and people were actually responsive. But people in AI are not like that much hearing about decentralizing it. For them, it's kind of strange. How do you guys work that out?
Yeah, couple of things. One, the thing you're talking about, the AI summit hosted by Swix, the AI engineering summit, that was super cool. We got to see BlackRock was coming up and asking like, hey, like what's Solana doing in AI? It was like really cool to have an honest conversation and talk about like the frontier financial agents. I think there's two fronts to this. One, institutions are always curious about like what's happening at the frontier. People are coming and talking to ecosystem companies on the cutting edge of AI and crypto, and the institutions are the ones reaching out to them and talking with a breakout application, AI application on Solana. I don't know if I can talk about their names, but it's fascinating. They're coming to us and they're like, oh, like we just got off a call with name big. I don't know if I can say the names, but like it's crazy to hear that like there's interest at the experimental side. And there's also interest in as an ecosystem, Solana is continuing to grow in influence, and big companies want to help as much as they can answer, user queries about, Solana transactions, and also help with Solana developer queries. Yeah.
So you are at JTC, right? That's what cooling is at JTC. Part of the team. Is there other AI event that you guys are targeting that are coming?
I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
Other AI events are coming.
We're taking a little bit of a hiatus before Accelerate. The next big AI event for us is going to be Coliseum. We have some tools we're really excited to promote for the super large online hackathon called Coliseum. If you guys aren't aware of it, definitely check it out. It's one of the largest hackathons in the world, if not the largest. It's got I don't know how many hundreds of thousands in prize money, but we're going to be pushing some AI tools out to support that very soon.
Nice. So you mentioned Accelerate is arriving in a month. So what's up? Maybe Emon, you want to talk about it, or what's coming with Accelerate? What is the date? What should we expect, etc.
I think there's going to be more announcements in the coming weeks, but right now we're focused on April 15th for the Coliseum stuff, and so all of our AI announcements are stacked up for that.
I can also say just on the Accelerate front, and I know you guys have probably heard a lot about Accelerate already, but the intention behind this, and I mentioned earlier the regulatory environment shifting, this is kind of like a breakpoint size event within the US and really focused around man on moon type programming, in the sense that breakpoint maybe is a celebration of all of the projects building on Solana. It's giving airtime and showcasing the different ones. With Accelerate, the goal is, let's bring in maybe some crypto skeptics, some folks who are maybe crypto curious, just getting interested in dipping their toes in, and what are the really incredible launches, teams, etc., that we can put in front of them to kind of convince them around the notion of Solana, around Web3, to get them to go a little bit deeper. And so you're going to see a lot of folks from Web2, from the policy side of things, from major financial institutions. And really the goal is to create a nexus moment where we're opening the door for crypto in America and trying to win over the hearts and minds there.
Let's go. And now, on the other side, with what's happening like on the market at the moment and etc., Solana have already been through FTX back then. What advice would you give to people that are starting to build on Solana now, building eventually in a bear market? It's like, yes, I want to take it.
For me, 2 words: ignore it. You know, keep your head down, focus on your customers, focus on what their needs are. I think both when people get excited by price and that's the reason they decide to start a project, you know, that's never the right reason. And what ends up happening there is you get into this sort of mindset of thinking, hey, if I just do X, Y, and Z thing really quickly, I can get a big win really quickly. But I think the reality of product development is that it's a slow slog. It's going out, it's talking to your users, it's understanding what their needs are, it's probably pivoting a few times, it's been building an initial feature, realizing that that's not quite meeting the need. And so all of those raw product development pieces still apply in a bear market or a bull market. And so that's why I say, you know, ignore it. And in many ways, the projects now that we all look at and we say, hey, those are the most successful projects on Solana, those are the ones that were actually crafted in the bear market, who took the time. And in many ways, the bear market is a gift, right? It's very quiet. The grifters are kind of gone. It's the folks who are building for the right reason. So I would really treat it as an opportunity to double down on the things that matter.
Noah, you want to add it?
Yeah, I don't know about, I'm not going to be great at giving advice to founders as Emon is, but I know personally when FTX happened, I had a lot of people call and they were like saying some very negative things, and it was like a little bit stressful. But I think that for me, what kept me focused was definitely having numbers. Like the raw numbers of Solana's performance in TPS had, you know, gone up from like 400 transactions per second to 800 transactions per second. Today we're cranking through like 3,000 something on like every second, and like 1,600 of those are like non-vote transactions per second. 1,600 of those are non-vote transactions. Like that's an exponential increase, right? And so the thesis was like, you know, Solana is going to go continue to deliver bandwidth. The technology is going to get better. It's going to get cheaper. Decentralized coordination is going to become less and less of a tax for application developers like yourselves. That's the thesis. And even when price goes down, like, you can always go back to that thesis. Like, you know, I had it down in my journal, and I was like, nothing changed. Like, you know, there's like a hardcore table of numbers showing growth, and that's what I was betting on. I want to go help make this happen. And I think that, you know, for people in similar situations, you know, you have to have that. And I think every year Solana is providing more numbers to help, you know, give confidence to people who are building on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fireside Chat often is coming with questions from the public. Do you guys want to ask any question to Emon and Noah? Otherwise, I have more, but you have a slot here. Yeah.
Does the Solana Incubtator program that you guys have, is that focused on fundraising, building, or both?
Yeah, it's both. So for us with the Incubator program, we're very intentionally stage agnostic and vertical agnostic. Even just in this cohort, we have some teams that are essentially pre-product or just at product, all the way to a team like Marinade, who's been operating in the ecosystem for 3+ years and who you might all be familiar with. The way that we think about which teams to support is who are the teams that we see out there who we think, hey, they still haven't reached the ceiling of what their potential is, and we can really pour gas on that fire and make them, you know, one of the most impactful companies on Solana. And so with that description, it could be a super early stage team or a super mature team. And by virtue of it being only 6 teams, we do that so that we can meet the team around whatever the specific challenges that they're facing. So to use your example, if a team's trying to fundraise, we can, you know, get in the trenches with them, we can introduce them to the right VCs, we can go through their pitch materials and try to get them there. Or if a team's working through their user experience flow, we can bring in our head of design, we can jump in Figma, we can leave feedback. And so it really is kind of like a hands-on leveraging the full bench of Solana Labs to help support these teams. And then just a quick plug, we just today announced our demo day for cohort 2, which is the current cohort that we're in. It's April 3rd, right here on the 6th floor. And so if any of you are interested, I think the Skyline Luma page has that on there, and we can probably follow up with that link as well. But it's an amazing batch of teams, and one of the things we very specifically did for this cohort was we stated up front that we wanted every team to be driving real-world adoption of Solana. So finding ways to either bring in, normies, so to speak, real-world users, bring in institutions, and support kind of the real-world adoption story, especially given where we sit from a regulatory and everything else perspective. So yeah, thank you for the question. And we'll also be probably unveiling applications for cohort 3 of the incubator, likely in April or May. So if anyone's interested, definitely stay tuned for those.
Thank you. Any other question? Where? Yeah.
I was wondering what Solana's most recent investments are, Solana Ventures, and then what the strategy is on those.
So from a Solana Ventures, so I sit outside of Solana Ventures. I can't speak to their most recent investments. I can speak, if it's helpful, I can speak to the incubator teams if that would be interesting. Okay, so within this current batch of the incubator, like I said, it's 6 teams. And I should just say, to context that a little bit, we started this program last year, cohort 1. Some of the teams in cohort 1 you all might be familiar with. Sanctum, which is LST infrastructure. Shaga, which is a cloud gaming platform. Espresso Cash, which is US, Nigeria payments and remittances. In this current cohort, I'll just go through it alphabetically. We have Alpha Ledger. They're a team from who came from PIMCO. They've done 800 million in assets on chain to date. And they're really working to bring real world assets on chain, likely in some sort of a fund structure, and trying to fulfill the gap between treasury yields, which is 5 or 6% and under, and then sort of like DeFi yields, which is 20% plus. They're trying to sit somewhere in the middle with a medium risk, medium yielding type product. So that's Alpha Ledger. Chakra is a decentralized data warehouse and data marketplace. And so they're working to bring down the cost of Snowflake by about 70% and bring to folks data that otherwise might cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to access. Crunch, John, do you want to talk about it? I assume all of you.
No, please do it. I want to hear it from you.
Okay, so Crunch, big pressure's on. Crunch is a community of 7,000 machine learning engineers, and what they do is they work with financial institutions on specific modeling tasks, where those financial institutions might have maybe a team of 2 or 3 ML engineers in-house, but for sophisticated tasks that maybe could save these financial institutions tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, they really value the power of having a community of expert ML engineers, hundreds of PhDs there. And essentially what happens is the financial institution says, hey, I'm willing to give out, let's say, $200,000 for the best models around this specific challenge. All of the ML engineers in the community sort of compete, and then Crunch actually aggregates the results of the best 50 or however many models and feeds that back to the financial institution to help solve their data challenge. How's that?
Good.
Okay, good. Easy Labs is another really interesting one. So Easy Labs is working with merchants to eliminate payment processing fees. And it's actually a super cool model where they started with school lunches, and they have incredible penetration in the school lunch space. And essentially what happens is you come in, you pay the merchant as with before. What Easy does in the background is they take that payment, they convert it into stable coins, they immediately put it into yield-bearing assets, and the end merchant still ends up getting their cash in 4 days, 5 days a week, however long it is. But that yield that they generate in those intervening days is used to offset any payment processing fees. So they're essentially bringing payment processing fees for the merchants they're working with to zero, which is really exciting. Marinade, you guys all probably already know. So Marinade is a staking platform on Solana. They have 2 products. One is MSOL. It was the original liquid staking token on Solana. And they also have a product called Marinade Native, which allows you to stake with zero smart contract risk because it's still native staking. but they aggregate your stake across a wide variety of the best performing validators and help you generate a much higher yield in that fashion as opposed to other staking avenues. So both they're trying to be, one of the highest yielding staking sources, but also one of the most secure while helping decentralize the network. And then the final one is USDM1. So this one's really interesting. They have a partnership with the Marshall Islands, which is a sovereign nation, dollar-backed nation. And by virtue of this partnership with the Marshall Islands, they're able to issue a yield-bearing stablecoin that generates essentially a treasury yield as you hold it. But because of this partnership, they get around a ton of the regulations that existing stablecoins have to deal with. And they're both using this stablecoin to help power the economy of the Marshall Islands, to pay out UBI in the Marshall Islands, and also to power payments in the Marshall Islands. But also they're trying to fulfill the global use case as well and be another Circle or Tether out there in the marketplace.
Nice. I think we can take maybe one more question. Yeah, Glenn.
Thanks, man. One of the things that I admire about Solana the most is just like how you guys probably went through more adversity than any other chain and like came back so much stronger as a result. From the outside, I have my reasons like for why I think that might be. One is like the developer community is just simply built different. I don't know like how else to describe it. And then you also have the awesome work that like the foundation was doing, as well as like teams like Helios to kind of help everyone pull through. But would just love to hear your perspective of like why you think you rose from the ashes and are ultimately even more successful today.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think
So I think for me, it's a few different pieces. I think to your point, the developer community is probably the biggest piece in my mind. Whether then or now, it's an extremely tight-knit community. You go to events like Breakpoint, even though it's a 3,000 person conference, you're seeing all the people you've known and come up with over the last few years. And I actually originally came from the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's really not like that at all, as you all know. It's like it feels like we're all kind of implicitly on the same team, working together, building together to push things forward. So that's point one. Point two for me is going back to Noah's point around like metrics through that time. It's kind of like FTX collapsed, but fundamentally nothing changed, right? The thesis for Solana was always incredibly fast payments and incredibly cheap payments. And post-collapse, post-FTX collapse, those two things were still true, right? And so if you're looking at it from a first principles perspective, for those same developers we were just talking about, the reasons they came to build on the chain still applied. And so it was more a matter of continuing to fight toward that vision of leveraging those two technological components of Solana to drive utility for real world users. I think the third one, and maybe this is more like an internal one that we feel, and I'm curious if you agree or disagree with this, Noah, but for me, it's like, to some degree, when these major things happen, let's use FTX collapse again, everyone kind of like looks at Raj and Toli and wants to see their reaction. And they're just like so locked in and so like almost like energized at those moments where it's like, hey, our baby is at risk. We believe in this thing. What do we have to do to survive? And in a way, it's not like a panicked energy. It's almost like unfazed. It goes back to that first principles thinking. And so when you have sort of leadership like that from an internal perspective where they're like, hey, we're going to be all right. Here are the things that matter. That both sort of disseminates throughout the organizations and I think also disseminates into the builder community. And actually one more that maybe I just say now that I'm thinking about this is like, there's a certain like tongue-in-cheekness of the Solana community where like the whole meme of, there's 85 developers on Solana and we're the ones chewing glass and everything else. And so having that self-deprecation inherently within the community really helps in moments where everything's falling apart because we're kind of used to that ethos of chewing glass and fighting through it all. So it's a really good question. There's probably many, many more, but those are some of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, one thing I want to add is like, to Emon's thing about Raj and Toli, they have a vision for not one order of magnitude better, but like 2 orders of magnitude better. Like, that is just so compelling when you are like looking ahead. It's like, wait, we still have like not just 10x to go, but literally 100x. And like I don't know if you heard of like the 00 panel yesterday, but it's like that's a legit reality. Like we are, the question is like, how can you 100x a decentralized system's throughput? And it's like, well, what if you completely redid the internet's infrastructure? Yeah, that's 00. Like that's a serious thing that like is happening that we're supporting. That's like getting people out of bed in the morning. And when you have that sort of long-term horizon, that isn't just like 15% improvement over like the next couple of years. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's like we're gonna make things 100 times better, or like that's like our whole ethos. And so people get up excited, and I think that's why we got through that.
Woo. Yep. Guys, I think on that perfect like ending statement, there is a second part of the panel, which is about the happy hour that you all came for. I know you didn't care about the talk. It's happening not here. We can stay a bit more, like a 30 minutes, 40 minutes here to network, and then if you want, we have a drink at this bar called
Fool's Gold.
Fool's Gold. Yeah. The address is on the app. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, you want to